Hey, if you're watching this video and you want to be a tryhard, absolute god gamer, or maybe just the best player in the world, but you don't know how, let me take you on a journey. Let me show you what it takes. But before I start, let me tell you why I'm qualified to give this kind of advice. And if there's anything you don't agree with, let me know in the comments, or just call me bad. I've been playing video games for pretty much my whole life, but I hadn't played a competitive shooter until freshman year of high school, when my friends convinced me to get Xbox Live in order to play Rainbow Six Siege. When I first started, I was indeed hot garbage, but I grinded and eventually hit Plat 1. And I've also hit Diamond 3 on Apex Legends before there was Masters. This eventually led me to building my own PC, and so far I've hit Diamond in Valorant and Plat in Apex. After hearing all that, if you decided my advice isn't going to be helpful to you, then why'd you click on this video? This section of the video is for people who are maybe just starting to get into gaming, or are new to competitive shooters. If this isn't you, feel free to skip to the next section of the video, or just watch this part for fun. The first thing you want to do is figure out which game you want to focus on, and plan to spend most of the time you're gaming on that game. This doesn't mean that you need to force yourself to only play that game, because at the end of the day, this is only a video game. Plus, if you aren't having fun, you'll only play worse. Which brings me to my next point. These are just games, so make sure you handle other things in your life before you decide to grind for 12 hours straight. I say this for a couple reasons. One, if you aren't able to focus in the game because of procrastinating, you'll have less fun and you'll play worse, like I said earlier. And also, don't forget to sleep because that's just good for your health. The next thing you should work on is your settings. For console, a lot of settings don't really matter too much because they pretty much all run the same. But for PC players, try to find out what settings give you the most frames or what pros use, because it's their job to know what settings work best for the game. And if you don't feel like doing that, then try to get your settings to basically get as many frames as possible and aim for enemies to be as easy to see as possible, which usually means tweaking the lighting settings. And while we're on the topic of settings, in my opinion the most important setting is your sensitivity. On console, many players start out with a sense that is too fast for them to be accurate. I think the best thing console players can do sensitivity wise is start out with a slow sense that is easy to control, then slowly raise it as you get more comfortable with each sense until there's literally no reason to make it faster. As for PC players, look at what pros use. Again, don't copy their sense exactly, because you're not exactly the same as them, but try to find something you like close to what they have. The first thing you should do if you're really getting serious about a game is pick one character to get better with, because no one instantly becomes the jack of all trades when it comes to gaming. If the game you play doesn't have a character, then focus on the type of playstyle you want to have. For example, in Rainbow Six Siege, as a defender, you can choose to be an anchor, which is someone who holds down the site, or you can be a roamer, which is someone who roams around the whole map and tries to catch the enemy off guard. I feel like this goes without saying, but if you want to play at a high level, you need to learn the maps and callouts that people use on them. This next tip is controversial because some people just don't believe it, which is fine, but I do, and this is my video so I don't care. Aim training is one of the main things that separates the boys from the men, or the casual players from the tryhards. I think of aim training as a sports athlete's going to the gym to work out. Sure, what they do in the gym won't help their game sense or form, but it will help them use their body to its fullest potential. And aim training does the same thing, but only in your arm or hand. Once you start aim training, there are a couple things you should do. First, you should stretch in order to avoid RSI. Coming from someone who goes to the gym regularly, if you are aim training or just playing a lot, you won't avoid RSI just because you think your arm is strong. Next, set a goal for yourself, because motivation may be something you struggle with at this point or later on. And if you end up hitting that goal, it feels great, but make sure you set another goal after hitting one so you don't become complacent or just completely lose all your motivation. The last non-optional tip for this section, in my humble opinion, is if you hit a new highest rank and you want to stop playing so you don't lose that rank, don't. There are many reasons for this. One thing you should expect is to get destroyed at the beginning, but then slowly get more and more used to the things that happen in this new rank until you can replicate what other people are doing yourself. And if you find yourself in a new rank and you can't do well because you simply just think everyone is better, which could be true, but it's more likely the case that everyone is doing something that you're not. These next tips are also optional because they can help, but they aren't really deal breakers if you don't follow them. The optional tips are, if you're on a loss streak of 2 or more, stop playing, especially if you're upset. Next, try to avoid having a cold room, because if you are cold, your warm blood leaves your hands and goes to your heart, which can make your hand movements less precise, and it's hard to notice whether this is happening or not, but if you're playing worse and when you started you felt really good, this could be why. One workaround to this is obviously just wearing warm clothes, like wool socks or a hat. If you follow all the steps in this section, then I'd say you're probably around my skill level. At this point, if you haven't already, you should research guides or tips on characters because they're most likely tricks you still don't know. One thing that a lot of players could work on that would make them way better is their mentality. This can mean a lot of things, like instead of putting your teammates down when they're having a bad game, try to encourage them, and they might even start popping off. Another good practice if you're tilted is focusing on what you are doing and not what your teammates are doing or the enemy team, because that is all out of your control. This tip is another way which you could use the vast internet to your advantage. By watching good players with the intention of learning, this means trying to figure out what they are doing that you aren't, other than just they aim good and I don't. Try to figure out why they position themselves the way they do, what's the advantage, or why they use their abilities at certain times and how it helps them. The next tip is, you should do what coaches do for their teams and review your own gameplay. If you don't have the time or space on your computer, then every time you die in game, try to think of what you could have done differently, but remember that you can't control everything. Another thing you should do is play more than you already are. The main reason for this is it helps build consistency, and one of the best ways to get better at something is just to get more experience. This tip is optional because it won't really make you better, but it will improve your rank, and it's to find other players around your rank to play with. And if you think you don't have anyone to play with, then try adding your teammates after games because they might also be looking for someone to play with. The last tip I will give in this section is to touch grass. By this I mean take breaks. When I take breaks from gaming, I come back with a better mentality, which helps me play better. Plus your brain also learns when you take breaks, so it can actually make you better. I honestly don't know if you thought I had advice on this section, but I'm definitely not that good. But I appreciate it if you did, and you want me to go into more detail on certain topics in this video, let me know. And if you're still here, that means you probably enjoyed the video and you want to see more of me, so you can check out my Twitch.